Hi guys, my name is Judy Mohr and I'm a freelance editor and writing coach with Black Wolf Editorial Services. I've been invited to come along and talk to you today about some of the hidden traps that you might find when you are building an online platform and provide with you some of the insights that I've gained over the years. Just to give you an idea of my own background, I've been writing fiction and nonfiction for over 20 years, for a long time. And I've been a professional editor since 2015. In my activities as a writer and an editor, I've been actively building my online presence for over a decade. The first iteration of my author website went live in 2014, but I've been around a lot longer than that. I actually had my first website in 2000, and so I've seen quite a bit of changes of the internet over those 24 years, I think it is now. It's a long time. Today, though, I do need to stress, because this is a topic that is so big, we are not going to be talking about how to market your books. Not today. We're not going to be talking about how you can build your lists or gain more following. That is not our focus for today. We're not going to even talk about building an online platform, because the reality is there are so many different components that go into an online platform that there is no one size fits all. But what we are going to talk about today is we're going to talk about some of the hidden traps that are out there, things that you could be doing online that could be causing some security risks. There could be things that you are doing without even realizing that you're doing it that are putting your physical and your internet security at risk. So we're going to talk about those today. But before anyone panics and thinks, oh my God, there's so much material and that we are going to have to make so many notes. No, breathe, stop panicking. Everything that we are going to be talking about today is actually included in my book. And at the time that this video has gone live, that book should be available through the major retailers. I will bring this slide up a bit later on, but just so you know, you don't have to make notes. So let's start with asking this question. What is a platform? Because I remember when I started and it was so confusing. No one could give me a clear answer as to what a platform actually is. Because there were so many working parts that have to fit together like a puzzle, and it just felt like I was hammering it all together. And when we talk about an online platform, the quick response that some people will give you will be things like social media, website, newsletter, blog, and some people will even say things like podcast. But when you are talking about a platform, there are so many other things that go into it. For example, your books, your published articles, your memberships. This is something that a lot of people forget about. You've joined various different professional organizations, and there are forums associated with that. You are talking to other people. That is part of your platform. It's your writer groups. You're connecting with other people. You're learning more. You're building these incredibly valuable connections. That is all part of your platform. It's the conferences you attend, both online and in person. And it's the volunteering opportunity. So say you give back to the writing community in one way or another, that is part of your platform. And it's also your in-person activities. Everything that you are doing that connects to your readers, that is part of your platform. Everything that you do to connect with your colleagues, that's also part of your platform. The reality is that a platform is not about marketing. It's about connections. Because without those connections, you are in a bubble and you are not going to get very far. You need those connections so you don't feel so isolated. So when things aren't working and going the way that they should be, you can go, help, somebody send, please help. That is what the platform is for. It's building connections. But I do want to stress as well that there is only so much you can do. You can't do it all. There are only so many hours in the day, and you do need to sleep. Sleep is a thing. Don't spread yourself too thinly. when that happens, you start to look like a bot, you get sloppy, things don't work well. It is actually better to pick one or two things and do those things really well than to do 10 things half-assed. And for a writer, that means we need to write. And for those who are freelancers, like editors and book cover designers, you need to be focusing on your contracts, because if you produce shoddy contracts, you're not going to get the money coming in. No one's going to want to hire you because you're producing shoddy work. So you can't do it all. You have to focus your efforts on what you are doing. This is probably the biggest hidden trap with an online platform, trying to do too much at once. You also need to give time to your non-writing life too. Remember, you have family and friends as well. And enjoy the sunshine, assuming the sunshine ever comes out. But just enjoy it. But let's move away from those basic ideas of building the online platform and just remembering you can't do it all. Let's focus our efforts now on internet security specifically. Internet security falls into 3 different categories. You have the site settings. And these will be the settings that you see on Facebook, Instagram, your social media, your membership sites. It can be with your host provider for your email. It might be the site settings associated with whatever you're doing. They tend to be a series of toggle switches or drop-down menus where you have options to choose. But this is sort of in our control, but again, it's sort of not, because we're at the mercy of whatever settings that the providers have given us. The second category is our practices. This is things like keeping our computer up to date, looking at the software that we're using. It's what emails we've chosen to use, our passwords, how we keep our passwords safe. And of course, it's something that's two-factor authentication. We're going to come back to two-factor authentication in a moment. But this idea about internet practices, again, it's sort of in our control, but we are at the mercy of others because we can have the best practices on the planet. But somebody who has got poor practices and just doesn't really care, well, our internet security is at risk now. The third category is what we post. So this is our messages. This is our content. It's how we interact with others online. The things that we say and the information we put out there, that is 100% in our control. No one's telling us that we have to say that message or use that word. We can control that, but it's also the most dangerous as a consequence. Because sometimes we do things without thinking. And hopefully by the end of today, I'll get you thinking about what it is you're posting. So let's take a deeper dive into these various different categories. So site settings, they're constantly changing. And what you need to do is you need to be examining all of your site settings for every single account you have in existence. Every single one. I know it sounds like a lot, and I know it can be really painful, especially if you don't think in this way to start with, but it's important. Because what you're looking for is you're looking for anything that could be granting public access to your information by default. If there's a setting there that says, hey, you're sharing your email address, well, is that what you want to be doing? Because if it is, then okay, leave it there. But if you're doing it and you don't realize you're doing it, that's where the danger comes in. Make sure you understand what every single one of those settings do, because sometimes it's not what you think it is. I'll give you an example. On LinkedIn particularly, your contact details are visible to your network by default. Now that sounds innocent until you learn what a network is. According to LinkedIn, the network is 3 degrees of freedom from your connections. If you were to say have 5 connections, and each of those connections have 5 connections, and each of those connections have 5 connections, and each of those connections had 5 connections, well, then based on just the number 5, That's 625 people by default that have access to your contact details. That's a lot of people. And in reality, on LinkedIn, people have hundreds of connections. You could be leaking your email address and your phone number to people, thousands of people, and not even realize you're doing it. With every single system that's in existence, what you need to be doing is keeping an eye on it. The moment you see a change in the interface, assume something else has changed. Normally, when their software programmers will change things and they'll change the user interface that's on the front end, normally there's something in behind it, there's something in the back end that has also changed. Sometimes it's something in your favor. So it could be a new feature has come online and you can actually now take advantage of that and lock your account and make it just that much more secure. But when that happens though, what can sometimes happen is that the older accounts are given a site setting that will mimic whatever they've had in the past. It doesn't mean that's what you want to be using, because maybe the default setting is something that's better and more secure. So you need to be looking at all of these settings on a regular basis. Make sure you are using the settings that are best for you and your circumstances. Meta, so that's the company that owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. They are really bad at doing this. Every single time that interface is changing, something else has changed in the back end. Sometimes it's been good because we've gotten better features, and sometimes it's been like, hang on, where did that setting come from and what is that doing? They're really bad about this. And X, previously known as Twitter, are just as bad. But it's not just social media sites that are bad for this too. Some of my membership sites, they've recently had changes and overhauls of their website, and settings changed as a consequence. So make sure you notice something has changed, make sure you know what else has changed. So let's look at our practices now, because it all starts with our computer. If we've got a computer that is not very healthy, internet security is probably not our primary concern, because if our computers are not very healthy, we're probably on a slight panic mode, thinking our manuscripts are going to suddenly zap away into the ether, or maybe client work's going to go poof and it's just going to disappear. So yeah, some of us are nursing laptops that are on their last leg. But let's assume that you've got a good condition laptop or a good condition computer and things are working. You should be running your operating system updates on a regular basis. I know some people will take the Windows updates particularly, and they'll say, no, I'm not going to do that today because they can take forever. And they just keep flobbing it off and saying, no, I'll do that later. No, I'll do that later. No, I'll do that later. But later never comes. The problem is with that is that some of these operating system updates are security updates. They've found holes that hackers have gone and attacked the system, and those operating system updates sometimes contain these security updates that you need to plug those holes. So run them. Please run them. Use a reputable paid virus checker or internet firewall. Now, I am saying paid because what the free ones, they are good. It's better than nothing. It really is better than nothing. But the free ones don't tend to use the same extensive database of viruses and malware and various different hacker things that can go wrong. So by paying for it, yes, it is an expense, but by having that paid expense, you're getting the best cover possible. Now, I'm not going to make any recommendations about what program is going to be best for your system. Instead, I'm going to point you to these three resources here. PC Mag, PC World, and Macworld. They are all review sites that focus on software that run on Windows. So PC Mag and PC World are for Windows, and Macworld is for running on Mac. And what they do is they are independent sites, and they will review the software. And so all you have to do, go to these sites and type in the name or type in 2024 virus checkers and get the latest information about the latest reviews about the most up-to-date virus checkers. Also run browser updates. Regularly, my browser is wanting a new update, but also run your software updates. So if you're on Microsoft Office, there's regular security updates that come with that. If you're on other programs, run the updates because there's normally security updates associated with them. But one more health thing that we should be looking at is our cookies. On the browser, you should be clearing your cookies on a regular basis. And for those who don't know what the cookies are, they're called cookies, but what they are is little packets of program. They're tiny little things that come along and they act like a little secret handshake. Your computer will go to the remote server and say, "Hey, hello, it's me." And the remote server says, "Prove it. Tell me the secret handshake." And your computer sends along the cookie that has been deposited. And if they don't send the right cookie, then the remote server will say, "I don't recognize that one," and you need to sign in again. The problem is, though, if you've got too many cookies on your website, your computer will get a little confused and it will say, "Well, I've got this one. No, maybe I need to be, no, okay, you want, no, maybe I need that, no, okay, which cookie did you want?" And it doesn't know what to do, and it will slow down your internet browsing experience. So you clear your cookies on a regular basis. You're also getting rid of anything malicious that might have been deposited on your website by websites that might have not been very secure. Use strong passwords. The passwords that you're going to be using might be a mixture of lowercase and uppercase letters. Maybe you've got numbers, you're going to characters. Different sites have got different requirements. But every single site should be using a different password. I know so many of us look at this going, "Oh, I know I should be doing that, but it's so hard and I can't remember it." And yeah, I'm there too. Sometimes simplicity wins out. But when it comes to things like your money, your taxes, anything that is going to be critical if somebody broke into that and took it away from you, you want to make sure it is secure as possible by using different passwords. One of the other things that you really want to be looking at nowadays is two-factor authentication. What it does is that you're logging in, you put your username and your password in, and then it asks you to take an additional login step, which is an instantaneous thing, to prove that yes, you have the authority to access that account. For every single system possible, use a two-factor authentication. The number of hackers that could have been stopped in their tracks if people would just use two-factor authentication is amazing. And set up multiple methods. If you have the option, set up multiple methods. This is me kind of speaking from experience here because I've been there and I've done that. If you use just the authenticator apps and Google app, the Google Authenticator is one of the more common ones that gets advertised. I don't use Google Authenticator for myself for different reasons. But if you do use just the Authenticator apps, if you lose access to your phone, you lose access to the apps. And if you lose access to the app, then you could lose access to your accounts. I've been there. I've done that. You don't want to do it because it's a mess to clean up. Trust me on this one. So if possible, set up multiple methods. Okay, let's take a look at the dangers of what we post. In this one, it's about the details. As writers and as other freelancers within the business, we do tend to focus on details within our writing a lot. But when it comes to sending out that message via social media or the communication that we'll just type up the email and we'll just send it out quickly, just get it out the door, we don't necessarily look at the details to the same extent. Here's the problem. Photos, and a lot of us have become shutterbugs. We've got the smartphone in our pocket and we're taking photos a lot. Photos tell us a story. So let's give a couple of examples here. Let's say we've just moved house and you want to share the photo out there. I've seen a lot of friends, they're doing renovations or they have just bought houses, and they share the photo of the house from the street. And there in the photo is the street number. You have your mailbox sitting there and it's got the street number. But somewhere in the comments is the street name. Or maybe it's a street name on a different comment on somewhere else on your feed. The reality is, if there is a bad guy around who is interested in stealing your stuff or becoming a stalker or going crazy cuckoo, they now have your physical home address. Let's pick another one. So, buying a new car. I know quite a few people who have done this, including my own brother-in-law. They've bought a new car, they're so excited about it, and they share the photo, and right there in the photo is the license plate of the car. Because you've got to show off the whole car, you got to see that whole profile. So there's the license plate with a little bit of cash, and I really do mean a little bit of cash. In New Zealand, it's $30 to do this. Anyone who's got the make, model, and the license plate of the vehicle can actually obtain the registration information. Now, the rules and regulations regarding this are different from country to country, state to state, region to region. They are all different, and I do encourage you all to work out and understand what the regulations are within your region. But yeah, the fact that it's even possible to do this is scary. Here's another one, and a very common one. Kids have started school. You're a mother. You want to share the fact that your kids are growing up and you want to share those photos. And you share photos of them in their school uniform. There on the uniform is the school logo. Well, guess what? Bad guys, stalkers, or crazy dudes, they now know where your children go to school. So we've got this bad guy whose stalkers are real. They now have our home address because we've shared photos of our house. They know what type of car we drive. They know what the registration is of our car because we've shared the car with a license plate. And they know where our kids go to school. Recipe disaster for life turning into hell. But let's take it one step further. And yes, it can get worse. Those GPS check-ins that you get on social media where you're traveling on holiday, I love it to see the photos of family and friends when they're on holiday. I totally love it. But if their house was to get burgled while they're away on holiday, their contents insurance wouldn't cover it. There's actually clauses in contents insurance that says if you share on social media that you're away on holiday and your house gets burgled, guess what? Your contents insurance is null and void. Just be careful what you're posting. I have legit seen every single one of these at some point over the last few years. I even saw an author, so envelopes with postal addresses. This is quite common. They'll say, hey, look what just came in the post. Oh my God, it's so amazing. And there is their postal address. It's their home address. I saw an author do this not that long ago. They were so excited to get the certificate for the copyright of their book, and they showed photos of the certificate, and there on the certificate was their home address. Mailbox of the houses. We've already gone over the dangers associated with car license plate numbers. I've seen parents so excited that their kids have passed their driver's tests, and there in the photo is their driver's license number. I've seen people share photos of their passport with passport number. I've seen people share photos of their credit cards. Why you would even do that, I have no idea. But I've seen it happen. I've also seen the dangers associated with sharing your business cards online with your phone number. Because what can happen is people now have your phone number and you can get those scam calls. Basically, anything and everything that has a personal identification on it in some way, you should not be sharing that on social media at all. Doesn't matter what it is. In fact, don't post anything, social media, private communication, email, whatever it is. Do not post it if you do not want it made public. Nothing on the internet is private. Not even your so-called communications. How many people remember Cockygate? So if you were new to the publishing industry, Cockygate, do a Google search for it and you'll see it. It's 2018. A romance writer had trademarked the word cocky. I kid you not. And it turned into an absolute storm that swallowed so many writers up and chewed them up and spit them out. It was a nightmare to watch. And it all started because one writer took a screenshot of the email communication that was a cease and desist letter regarding the title of her book that just happened to have the word cocky in it, and she shared it on Twitter. What was meant to be a private communication became public. Once it's on the web, it doesn't matter. It's out there. You're never getting it back. It's going to be there. Even if you've already posted it and you've taken it down and you've tried to sanitize it, if people know what to look for and they know how to get into the databases, or they know what portion of the world, or if they've happened to have captured a screenshot before you could do anything, once it's out there, and there is no going back. You can never take that back. There is another danger that is associated with working with online. This one is an interesting one because this one is actually associated with our domains. So as writers and as freelancers, it's very important that we have a website because that is the huge component of our online presence. And I do recommend having your own custom domain, especially if you're running a business. But the Whois search, so the website is whois.com. It's a public database. You do not need a login or anything. Anyone can go there and use it, and it's a public database of every single domain on the planet. And the information that's obtained that you can get on a Whois search includes who the domain is hosted with, gives you the domain server addresses, when the domain comes up for renewal, when it was first registered, who administers that domain, and this is full contact details, and who owns that domain, full contact details. You can hide this information, or some of it anyway, from the world by using something known as privacy protection, but this information is still out there. And I want to give you just a hint, just to show you what I mean and how dangerous it is. So I'm just going to bring up a web browser. And this is the website that I'm talking about here. So it's whois.com. And you just go up here and you just enter in any domain. Now I'm going to enter in Air New Zealand because I know they don't have privacy protection on their website. And it's a public business, so I can get their contact information and all of the records of their information from other means anyway. But I'm just to show you what comes up in this Whois search, airnewzealand.com. And we can see here it was first registered in 1997. It comes up again for renewal midway through the year, 2024. And there's the server information. And here we go. This is who owns it, the full contact information, full address, who administers it, technical details. All of that information is there. This is a business, so it's a bit of a different thing, and they have chosen to not use privacy protection in this case. But I want to show you what privacy protection does just to protect your details. So I'm going to bring up my own website, judylmohr.com, and this is the record. So you can see when it was first registered. You can see when this domain was first registered with this company anyway. And you can see when it comes up for renewal, you can see my server name. So that's something I can't hide. But my personal contact details are nowhere to be seen on this record. This is because I have privacy protection. Please, please use it. Protect yourself. You want to have control over the contact details that you were sending out. Everything that we've talked about today and more is covered in my book. So I've talked about the Whois search, and I talk about dealing with the different types of security, but I also give some other information about things like dealing with emails and building websites, and I actually give some practical advice on actually how to build your platform as well. Not just keep it safe, but actually build it, and build it in a safe manner. And if you go to my website, so it's judylmohr.com and /hidden-traps, you can actually find links to all of the retailers that it has been listed on, or at least the links that I can find. As a special little thank you and a little hint for those who were here today, I've actually got a little handout that is about building email accounts to help you build your security in your online platform. I'm a strong believer that one email account for a writer is not enough, not in today's environment, not to protect ourselves. So this little checklist is the list of the emails that I think writers should have, along with some added reasonings as to why they're there and some additional hints about the type of accounts you wanting to work with. You can get that handout at blackwolfeditorial.com/email-checkup-signup. If you are interested or if you just have any questions and you just want to ask some questions, please feel free to drop me a line. My website is blackwolfeditorial.com. But if you're interested in my personal projects, then you can find me on various different social media at Judy L. Mohr. I tend to have the same handle on all the sites, and that includes Facebook, Twitter, even though it's called X now, and Mastodon. I'm on Blue Sky now as well, so various different social media. And you can also find me on my website, and that's judylmohr.com. I hope you find that useful, and I look forward to seeing you around in the internet world.